Oh, wonderful.
There we go. So file's here, so I can start the backup recording, I suppose.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. The steady stream of groundbreaking talent that's going to make up the field in the future, and the field-altering tool generation that's going to help enable even more breakthroughs in the field going forward. There are just so many, and you got a visual because I love a good visual. So many sparks out there, so many minds that could absolutely make an
Oh,
incredible.
Hudson, are you meant to be sharing at the moment?
Oh, is my screen not sharing?
Ah, yeah, yeah, it's not.
Oh, that's concerning. I
Oh,
got your
does
screen
it?
thing at the top of my screen.
Oh, I see. Hold on, sorry. I was in the meeting tab.
All good. It
That
was high.
was that's entirely my bad. Mea culpa.
We're all good. So many minds out there, so much untapped potential that's never getting the opportunity to put the passion they have in them to work, or they're having to do it at such a later date that so much work is being missed out on. To help ameliorate this problem, starting Phoenix Aerie. What we are is a 3-month progress-focused co-living community for emerging longevity scientists and next-generation builders. I want to reiterate here that while this is going to be scientifically rigorous, as in we are going to like make sure that the science we talk about is like hard science, it is not specifically geared towards just scientists. We want people who, like I mentioned before, are thinking about longevity policy, when people are thinking about the ethics of longevity. We want anyone who's trying to push the field forward and is passionate about what they do. Where this is going to happen and when, as you can tell from my background and the beautiful image up there, is the Bay Area, California. And we're going to be running from June to August, this summer especially, but we're going to work on making sure it happens on an annual basis. That way we can extend this opportunity to as many people as possible going forward in the future. This will be for 4 to 8 young minds, young sparks, as we say, between the ages of 18 and 25 in the inaugural year. And we're going to work on building that alumni network as procedural years go on. While we are a co-living space, we're not like a hacker house like many of the tech equivalents in SF. The goal of this program is to make sure we are enabling people who are just passionate about the field, not necessarily forcing them to spend on a deliverable, because I don't want anyone to be hampered like this. This is supposed to be something for people to contribute to the field in the way they most believe they can contribute best, and that does not always appear as a company deliverable. There we go. We're working on building the future now. Oh, too far. We're working on building the future now. Come on. We're here to catalyze ideas, talent of these folks, these minds that we mentioned earlier that are opportunity to contribute in the ways that they can. Finding the future movers and shakers a place where they can go and do their thing, literally just be them, be in a space where they can put all of their passion and care into what they do. So people putting their care and their same similar goal and would do so without worrying about like, oh my goodness, do I have enough money to do this? To connect these burgeoning thinkers and lovers of the field together early on so that they can be accelerated into the field and do as much as they can from their variety of backgrounds and go on and start as many, for lack of a better analogy, fires with what they have and what they can do in the environments they'll make as they go out and disperse into the field. For when you're actually in the house, we're going to have several things of educational programming, several things they'll be doing that are going to be like planned. So there's structure as well, including office hours with experts, articles in my group, longevity startup case studies, debate nights, because we're not just going to focus on just the science part of it. We want people to be able to properly articulate their ideas, want people to be able to communicate it with each other, and we want everyone to be from a diverse background and not just of like melanin, but also of thought. We want people to make sure like we're hearing ideas like points of view that people had never even considered, like, oh my goodness, because I was raised on this and I'm a firm believer of it that well-roundedness is one of the best ways to make sure you're actually making true progress in a field. For our timeline, we're going to have we want to finalize selection of Phoenix area residents by late January, early February, but the application is out right now, and I'll link that a little later on. We are gonna, and then you can see the rest of the stuff on the timeline. You guys can see. So looking to the future, we want to eventually establish multiple locations along with continuing this on an annual basis. Possibly have short retreat opportunities throughout the year so we can get alumni together and be like, oh my goodness, you're amazing. I'm so glad to get to see you again, because we want to ideally have people coming from a variety of places as well, a variety of thought, and establish a tight knit set of alumni so that while these people are being connected with many other folks in the field while they're here, we want to make sure that the Phoenix area itself is a home base for them. They can make sure, like, I know this person is basically another set of family for me. I can always go to them to bounce this idea off of or count on for support. This is a safe area. To summarize, to be in a succinct manner, will be a haven for students passionate about the longevity field. That is the core connector between all Phoenix area residents. It'll be a place where those students can push the field's boundaries and grow its community without that financial concern. And be a place where those students can go about creating foundational bonds with people in the field and each other to make sure they go out and help create that environment in the field going forward and make sure they can accelerate as many other folks as possible. And thank you. So, for questions, let me know what you guys have.
Thanks very much. That was great, Hudson.
But I will stop this.
Sure. So, here we go. We've got the first question from Colin. Describe what brought you to the field of longevity studies and what were your initial thought barriers you had to overcome to pursue this passion?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. My goodness. All right. So I've always been a nerd. For actually, I would say lack of a better term. That is the better term. I love the word nerd. It was always used as a term of endearment for me when I was little, and it stuck to me because it just shows a passion about learning more things. And this might come as a bit of a surprise considering what we're all here meeting for. But my first scientific love wasn't actually longevity. My first scientific love was space. I was watching Through the Wormhole. I was learning about the atom, and I was my third grade I want to know project was on dark matter and antimatter. I was like, oh my goodness, I want to learn as much as possible about as many things as possible. This is so awesome. Eventually, throughout all of that, I was like, okay, how can I maximize the amount I can learn in terms of like what? How am I gonna make so I have as much time to do this as possible? How am I gonna make sure? How can I make the biggest impact? Because that's what my mind started being geared towards, and that's what like my brain. This was around seventh grade. Immediately was like, okay, longevity. Let's extend the amount of time and the amount of quality time that we literally have to do exactly that. And so I started doing my initial dive into research. Was like, okay, because if I'm being really honest, when I first thought of this, I was really afraid people like, you are absolutely insane. I don't know what you're talking about. Put him on a watch list. But then I saw different videos on YouTube from people like Aubrey de Grey and David Sinclair showing like, no, people are like legitimately working on this. It's not just looking for the fountain of youth. And I was like, oh my goodness, let's get started. So then I jumped into doing different research experiences, everything. But when it comes to the specific thought barriers that came with it, I remember even in high school, though I went to a pretty good high school, I couldn't help but like I tried to get access to a longevity journal there, but it just kind of hit a wall. They're just like, this is not relevant enough for us. And I couldn't help but notice that when trying to discuss it with peers, people would even be like, huh? Or at maximum, they'd be like, oh, the telomere thing? And then that'd be like where it all ended. Like, because there was just not enough talk going on about longevity. It was far too niche. So people would not, there was rarely a chance to connect with people about that unless I was literally within a research experience that was longevity based. Because even when I was like at other labs that were doing like just great science, longevity just wasn't always a big topic for them. So they just didn't think to discuss it. So in order to pursue this passion, I had to like do some serious searching and a good amount of cold emailing to even find a space where I could talk about these ideas at like in a meaningful capacity with other folks that could help me build these things. So yes, that's what, did I miss any part of the question? Did that feel like that encapsulated everything? Like feel free if like there's something that was missed, like let me know. I am here to give you guys the full everything on everything.
I like that phrase. Full everything on everything. I've got kind of a related question then. What inspired
Yes.
you to start Phoenix Aerie?
Oh, yes. So this came around the start of, like speaking about the cold emailing. The cold emailing my freshman year of college is what got me the incredible opportunity to intern at the Sinclair lab. Like one of the people that like showed me that longevity was a thing for the summer. So I joined in, I did that. The interning was amazing. I was so pleasantly surprised by the environment because I just had no idea what to expect. Everyone was wonderful. And among the people that were interning were there with me or several people from something called the Bio Dojo, the Nucleate House, something that Carol McElhayes co-founded. And because they were just awesome people, I spent more and more time around them. And I was also like, oh my goodness, I have so many people to talk about this stuff with. And everyone else is also a nerd. What am I supposed to do? It's like an embarrassment of riches. So I would go to events with them. And I like one was like a SpaceX longevity event, which was just awesome because how could you mix my two favorite babies? My goodness. But but basically, I came into contact with them. I loved that company. And eventually, one of the folks that was in said house introduced me to Carol, who was the co-founder of said house, and we had a video call. The vibes were incredible. We matched. I was like, oh my goodness, you seem like amazing. And so we met again. Like I had dinner with her and several other folks when she actually came to Boston. I was like, oh my goodness, you really are amazing. It wasn't just over call. And as we stayed in contact, we were talking about different ways to help make impacts in the field. And she was saying she would love to see something like the biodotanucleate house, which is mostly focused on biotech for something in longevity. And I was like, oh my goodness, I would love to see something like that happen too. That would be amazing. And he's like, I can't do it though, because I've got this, that, like she had a lot stacking up on her plate, joining age one, like applying for grad school, all of that thing. So I was like, oh my goodness. It's like, and she's like, but if you want to, like, it's up there. Like, that's an idea that should happen. And I was like, I think I'm catching your drift. Wait a minute. So, and having attended a bunch of other events in the field, it all sort of came together all at once in a sort of like movie-like moment. I was like, oh, this has to happen. And I got to do this. This is a chance for me to both make as big a change in the field that I love as I can, while also creating the spaces that I had to work so hard to find beforehand. So that's what inspired Phoenix Aerie, a mix of wonderful people and wanting to make a space where more wonderful people can actualize.
Very well put. So, I'll ask you a bit of a tougher one now then.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
so there are quite a few different like co-living spaces in the longevity space and the biotech field general. You know, you just mentioned Dojo House, and then there's a Vitas House as well, and there are a few others. Mark Hamalainen is now starting one. How does Phoenix Aerie stand out from these?
Oh, yes. And one I want to mention just how appreciative I am that there are like other houses like this sprouting up all over the place because this is something that I see as like a necessity. This is a need. So to seeing that needs continually be like increasingly met by the community is wonderful. But what's special about Phoenix area specifically is that we're balanced essentially. I see things like Doja House that was biotech focused, so it wasn't fully in the longevity field. So like that was why like even when like Carol who like co-founded Doge House was like, we need to see something specifically for longevity as well. And then Avatar's House, started by Rob, who is awesome and has actually like been a source of advice as I go through this process. He also thinks this is a wonderful idea. His is more seems to be more focused on like specifically just the science. Like I want to like almost closer to the deliverable side of things, and also much more long term. And I believe you also have to pay for that one. But so it's like a slightly different niche. Meanwhile, Phoenix Aerie honestly works really well as for people who either know that they are passionate about longevity and have been like in it for a minute, but haven't necessarily gotten the chance to do it via experience, whether it's monetarily based or they just didn't luck out enough or didn't have the right opportunities. So honestly, it works as a wonderful spot for people who have completed the LongX program, since that is much more open and available for people. So a good natural progressive step from the LongX program, as well as anyone who's like, I know I love this field. I know I have so many ideas. I'm bursting with ideas. I just need a chance and a place to actually make this happen. That's for us. Whether that's you being coming at it from a scientific perspective, because that is absolutely welcome and wanted, or whether it's coming at it from like, I really want to make sure people understand what we mean when we say this. I want to like perfect longevity public communication, or I want to perfect longevity ethics for when those questions inevitably come up. And I will admit they are some of my favorites just because I'm like that. And whether you're science, whether you're policy, whether you're anything in between or outside of that, as long as you're passionate about longevity and pushing the field forward and making a difference in that field, Phoenix area is the place for you. So that variety mixed with that opportunity giving is what makes Phoenix area special.
Excellent. Thanks. I'll ask another from my roster. I'm going to, at the end, by the way, I will pause or stop the recording at the end for anyone who wants to ask a question but doesn't want it to be recorded. I'll have a little time at the end for that as well. So you mentioned cost in your previous your previous answer. Do you have kind of a ballpark for how much Phoenix Aerie will cost?
In total, it's going to be a goal for around 40K total, including living costs, because the Bay Area just is Bay Areaing and is like, oh my goodness, you want to like breathe air? That'll be a lot of money. So or so the majority of that cost is going towards housing, and the rest of it's supposed to go towards like actual living, making sure people can eat, making sure we can host an event every once in a while, making sure people can have access to public transportation if that's what they need. So it's just living expenses mixed with living expenses. That's what the cost leads into the 40K for Phoenix Aerie.
Is there a cost for people applying?
For people applying, no. This is like that part of the purpose of Phoenix Aerie is making sure people don't have to have deep pockets in order to have access to this kind of opportunity, because great minds come from everywhere.
Very much like that idea. It's very LongX in thought.
Yeah, we're partnered for a
um,
reason.
exactly. So, are the applications open right now? What's the application process like?
Yes, the applications are open right now. I will post the link in chat in a little bit as we get closer to the end. And it's also up in the Time Initiative Slack if anyone's on that. And I need to double check, but it should be on the website. But in terms of the actual application process, you click the link, you fill it out. I'm gonna get most of the information about like your background on like what you've done or what you've tried to do. Because like if you attempted to do something and it just didn't work out, please drop that in there as well. We're here for demonstrated interest and passion, not necessarily having a crazy list of stuff that you like that just happened. So much luck goes into this. But once we're through all of that, we'll host a video interview. So like me and possibly some other members or partners working on this can get to know you so we can understand who you are as a person, not just who you are as like an accomplishment, because that's another side of this house. We're looking for people, we're looking for a certain kind of people in terms of you have to be passionate, you have to be open-minded, and you have to be contributing to making a better space. Because if you were like one of the smartest people on the planet, but you're just so mean to everyone that like nothing ever gets done or through, you like so much has just been wasted. We want to make sure that we're creating a space for care, both in the general sense and care for the field, is fostered and welcome in such a sense that it just feels natural. Yes. Did that answer
Very
the question?
nice. Yes, I completely agree. Um, so whereabouts is Phoenix Aerie House located? Where do you plan to locate it?
It'll be planned located ideally somewhere centrally in the Bay Area. That way we can be as close to the action as possible. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to end up being near one of the public transportation spots, also in the Bay Area. So that way, no matter what, we have access to everyone else because we want to make sure we're making an interconnected community there as well. As much as you, with your brothers and sisters in the house, we want to make sure you are able to hop over to Avitas and talk with folks over there, or like go up to age one and ideate there, or et cetera, anything in between, making sure that we are accessible. So an accessible place in the Bay Area. We'll take care of the rest.
Sure. So you answered this partially, but is there anything else that you would say with regards to the kinds of people that you're looking for to apply to Phoenix Aerie?
Oh yes. Okay. So we're looking for, I want to see a space where I see ideas, and not just ideas, but styles of thought. And that could come from various different cultural backgrounds. That can come from just being strange, but like are good strange. And I just want to see like so many things that I never thought to think about that are going to help push us forward. I want to make sure as many bases are covered as possible. So if you believe you have something unique in your approach and or passion, or something that you just think the field needs, or thing that you think you are uniquely gifted in some way, shape, or form to provide, you should apply. If you think you are one of those people and you know for a fact that you care deeply about making sure that progress is made here, or you care, or just a caring person in general, honestly. We love just like having a good space. Apply. This is a spot where you should feel safe to be you, and being you is why you're here, because you just being you is you making progress in the field. You just being you is making that difference. So if you just being you is akin to fire, then Phoenix Aerie is the spot for you.
I very much like the fire analogies, the fire motif that you've got going on here. You weave it in very well.
I will say that I just can't help it. It's just like my parents will attest.
So do you have, speaking of the kind of person, the kind of environment that you want to create, um, what are the house rules that you've got?
Oh, And and right after that, I'll answer the next question from Colin, who's like rocking it with questions. My goodness. For house rules, when it comes to like more like specific house rules, like who's taking out the trash, we'll work that out as we get closer to and we as we get the actual residency set up. But the one of the biggest things is making sure we are inspiring, creating the right environment. We want to have an environment where you can share your opinion without fear about it, as long as your opinion is not just shutting down something else. We want to make sure we're creating an environment where like everyone's core can be on display and be shared with everyone else's, and everyone feels safe in doing that. So even if someone like I vehemently disagree to like every fiber of my being, like that is good. We want to make sure we have people that are like, we don't want an echo chamber. So house rules is one, don't let an echo chamber be an echo chamber. But make sure that if you have, even if it's a devil's advocate opinion, throw that in. Hold nothing back. So another thing is assume good intentions, because when you have a space where you know that everything at least is coming from a place of care, your ears can be a lot more open, and there's a lot more immediate offense. There's a lot less immediate offense taken, and people are more willing to make sure we all come to a proper conclusion. So assume care, be open, and of course, because it's like a house, we're like, don't shirk on responsibilities. We're all putting in equally here. Like this is a space we're all different, incredibly different, but all equal in value. So make sure you treat everyone else like that. But
Sure,
yes, those would
that
say
sounds
those
good.
house rules.
I'll read out Colin's question here for the recording. What is the ultimate goal of your pursuit of longevity and associated sciences? Potential pitfalls?
Oh, yes. So when it comes to longevity, I see a lot of discourse, honestly, about people bouncing between like, oh my gosh, we have to just focus on health span. And then on the other side of things, people like, no, 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 like it's immortality or bust. And oh, yes. And what level of collaboration? Okay, thank you. Another question for later. Um, for me personally, there's so many different aspects that feed into it, because when I started, it was a mix of I there's so much to learn, so much to do in this world. There's no way I can do as much as I want to do with just what we've got spawning in, for lack of a better phrase. And a mix of that and seeing like, oh, wait a second, even though this was like a very early sense of mortality, because I was like in sixth, seventh grade, I was like, I don't want to see like all the people I care about like be doomed to like wither away and die. That's really scary. What are the different things we could do to work on that? So I personally, I just want to see progress made in the field. So my ultimate goal is making sure that we have, as people don't have to suffer and wither and die against their will like that. So I want to make health abundant in the most utmost manner. But and associated sciences, honestly, because I have a deep desire to just understand how the universe works, on all of its levels. So that's just part of me. That's hardwired. Potential pitfalls is one of the bottlenecks I mentioned earlier when it came to interconnectivity, because one of the things I would notice as I went to different longevity events in Boston during my summers was how there seemed to be like different camps and factions a lot of the times when it came to longevity. It was like, no, 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 no. You just got it's resveratrol, guys. Like just take resveratrol versus someone be like all everything else absolutely crazy. Like almost like the almost like the cynic side. Like nothing works, but I'm really curious about seeing what else could happen versus like, oh my goodness, we're right on the edge of it. Like these chemical reprogramming agents are gonna give it like make us all immortal immediately and make us all rich. So I want to see some joint connectedness when it comes to like a joint effort. I mean, like we want to make sure this field as a whole goes forward and goes forward as optimally as it can. So pitfalls is going to be getting people to actually work together, because you can just see from general people activity that that's not always our strong suit. So yeah, I'd say that's the biggest pitfall, cohesiveness.
And a related question, speaking of cohesion and collaboration, what level of collaboration are you hoping for within the house?
Oh yeah. So within the house specifically, well, talking from person to person, like you don't have to all be pitching in on each other and whatever project you're working on while you're there in the summer. Like you don't have to go to the where that other person's interning and be like, I'm helping out today. Like, who are you? I want it to be a kind of almost like a home away from home, another family you can come to. Like, I'm working on this issue, and I noticed that you have incredible ways of thinking in this manner that that where I'm lacking. What would you say about this project? How can I improve here? Somewhere where they can bounce their ideas off of, somewhere where they can I make new ideas with, and a place where they know they can do it without worry of judgment, and a place where they do it where they know everyone else is similarly passionate about what they do. So everyone is caring just as much as they're caring. So in terms of levels of collaboration, trying to think of a word for it. I'd say familial level of collaboration. Everyone has their own independent activities and own independent thoughts, but everyone is connected on that level of they're always going to be, or they should always be there for each other. And they're always going to be a good place to bounce things off of. And of course, lots of events will be attended together.
Sounds like a good basis to me. Thanks, Sufal, for the question. Um, okay. Uh, how does Phoenix Aerie relate to the LongX mission?
Oh, yes. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, the Phoenix Aerie, like the more I hear about LongX, the more I talk more with you and everyone else here, and the more I see just the incredible things you're doing, it becomes more and more apparent to me how much Phoenix Aerie really works as a complement. As for someone who has gone through the LongX program, like that's one of the best ways you could really just like show that you're passionate about this, because there's just like you did the online things, you made sure you connected, you reached out, you clearly love this. You wouldn't have made it all the way through the program if you didn't love this. So Phoenix Area is a place where like, okay, you love it, let's go do it. Where you can take that idea, you can see like, oh, this is the career path I'm thinking about taking, whether it's like through the career map, they're like, okay, I know which direction I'm gonna go in. I'll make sure I can get in, and like jumping into the map would be the Phoenix Aerie portion of it. So Phoenix Aerie is like I was just like the LongX, Phoenix Aerie. That's what I'd say the connection is. Yes.
All right. Got another question from Colin. Uh,
Yeah.
are there any grants or other funding sources to assist with the cost of supporting Phoenix Aerie?
Yes, we are sending out many applications right now. Whether it's like working with like applying for money from a time initiative or the OWL fund or like local hosts. I've got a whole list. And once that's done, we'll also start reaching out to more companies and like sponsorships, having sponsorship packages, and of course being open to donations. So it's going to be a group effort from everybody in terms of the space. And we're also be looking at, oh my God, I forgot the name for a hot second. Um, oh my goodness. And what's the other one for the investors? The
Venture capital?
venture capital. Thank you. Why did that leave me all in that moment? Venture capital.
I prefer not to think about venture capital when I can avoid it.
I was like, my brain just like, what? That can't be a thing. Don't, no, put that away. So venture cap, different grants and applications, and sponsorship packages and donations. Yes.
Okay. I've got one more question on my own little list. Um,
Yeah.
do you have any experience with running a co-living space, or do you have any transferable skills?
Oh, yes. So this will be my first co-living space that I've started. But in terms of transferable skills, despite this, besides being like an eldest sibling, which is like, oh my goodness, this you got responsibility all over the place. But The I back in high school, because I was also looking for another outlet for my like nerddom, for because that's the phrase I'm using for my nerddom. I co-started a club called Catch 22, where the entire point was to basically explore things that have been dubbed now, not by me actually, but by honestly people in the lab, as like Hudson questions. Be like, what's one thing that if humanity did better, we would like the world would be fixed, like all of our biggest issues. Like what's one of the things that are core ailing us? And that entire situation was like that was basically the club. We'd explore those, we'd explore paradoxes, we'd explore riddles, and we'd just talk about impossible questions, answer the impossible questions to answer as much as we could. And that took a good set of good bit of organizing. But in addition to that, so that was back in high school. Moving forward, getting experience with Carol, who's also working as an incredible source of advice. Also talking with Courtney Hudson Paz, who also is another source of amazing advice, and Rob, who's starting the Avatas House, who's working as another source of amazing advice. I've got views all over the place of how to make a strong co-living space and how to build a strong team. And that is something, and because I wouldn't be looking to start something where we gather as many passionate people as possible without being passionate myself, I am absolutely going to use to its utmost capabilities. Yes. We good? Does that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of team, by the way, another question from Colin. Do you have a supporting staff, or are you carrying the weight of this initiative individually?
Oh yes. So this is like as with the LongX, we're partnering. Phoenix Aerie is partnering with LongX. While we have in Phoenix Aerie alone, it's mostly advisors that are helping out. At LongX, we have one member who's actually going to be joining us for the summer, Denisa, who's absolutely amazing. And several other members of LongX are just being incredible sources of like getting webinars like this. And I'm gonna meet soon after this and talk about like more game planning on applications, like more things about location finding. Like I've seen people at LongX have been absolutely amazing at helping out with this and seek to only build the team. So
Okay,
yes, reporting.
hope that answers your question, Colin. Uh, I thought of another question just now. Where you hope to take Phoenix Aerie? If all goes well, what would be your grand vision?
Oh, I love a grand vision question. All right. My grand vision for Phoenix Aerie is that when I like after this initial cohort, we see that first cohort go on. I see them spread out into the field, of course, coming back, always having that home base in Phoenix Aerie. And I see the next one come in, possibly having like one holdover so that they can help guide the house that year. And something similar to what Doja House is doing. But I want to see as time goes on, more locations pop up, possibly within like similar neighborhoods within the same thing, but also spreading to other hubs of longevity. And something we were talking about a little bit before we actually got into this. I want to eventually make Phoenix Aerie international. I want to have people from wherever because we have incredible minds and ideas from all over the world occurring, and like not everyone can like just hop on a plane to the US and contribute to the brain drain, as we say. So I want to see locations and longevity hubs in the US. I want to see locations and longevity hubs internationally, and I want to see a building sense of community with each passing year and each passing cohort of that environment that I was talking about earlier, where it's an environment of care about the field, about each other, about moving forward, and about open-mindedness and well-roundedness. And as people graduate Phoenix Aerie and move on to the field, I want to see them inspire similar things. I want to see them take that care and that passion into whatever profession they're taking it into. That way people can look up and be like, oh my goodness, I can be that successful and I can still like be this passionate about something and I stand care and still be kind to everyone else around me like that. Like success, I want to see Phoenix Aerie help build a new vision of what success can look like in this field. That is my grand vision. And I want to see that all over the place.
I like that vision. And once again, very LongX in style. We love a global mission. And thank you, Colin, for thanking us and for coming along with all of your questions. You have definitely rounded out. I don't like being the one to ask all the questions myself. You've done half my job for me. Thank you very much, Colin. um, okay, so I'm gonna leave us a couple more minutes for questions, and then I'll turn off the recording and see if anyone has any, questions that they don't want to ask on the air.
Closed
Um,
door.
off the record, as it will, as you were. So we can see if anybody has anything. And if not, it's looking like we'll close out on the hour.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else pops up, I'll just assume we were just that good at explaining everything.
um, do you have any Hudson questions for us?
Oh goodness. Oh yes. Oh my goodness. Look, I'm sorry. I'm excited. It's been a minute. Um, let's see. My Hudson question right now would be, what do you think, what do you think holds people back from hope most often? That real hope, that hope where you're like, I'm not just thinking that this is like that, like this could be possible, but it's like not gonna like hope that translates itself into action. Another thing we're sort of trying to help inspire at Phoenix Aerie.
I think having been burned in the past is a common one. I see that with some like higher level professionals in the field, where when they see a new trial of a drug or something, they're very hesitant to get excited about it, because they've seen so many of these things fall through. And even though they're doing better nowadays than they were back, in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, it's still, it can be hard to get your hopes up for these kinds of things. I think that's what I think that's the reason against hope for a lot of people.
Hmm, I get that. I
Feel free
remember I
to answer in the chat, by the way, as well, if anybody fancies answering a Hudson question.
my goodness, please. All contributions welcome and exciting. Um for my I guess for my own little ramble on it, I've been thinking about it like a lot recently. And because it seems like the darker things can seem to be, the more important hope becomes. Yet the emotion does not feel to be driving towards more hope. Like as hope becomes more important to have, the less I seem to want to feel it, or less I see people seem to want to feel it too. So it's like that makes so little sense. Why does that occur? Because like if things are if things are bad, then it becomes that much more important to make sure you're so solid in making it better that hope becomes second nature because hope is necessary for action. I something I left out earlier was that I was absolutely also like a superhero slash comics nerd. I don't know why I said was, I still am. And one thing I really enjoy from DC Comics was the way they operated with Green Lanterns and the different Lantern Corps, because they're all based on an emotion. With green, the main character one most often being willpower, blue being hope, yellow fear, red rage, etc., etc., etc. Um, and well, something interesting about how they work in that universe is that a blue lantern is often the blue lantern of hope is pretty much useless if there isn't a green lantern nearby. So we need to have will in order to make hope into action because when a green lantern is nearby, blue becomes the most powerful one out of all of them. So it's I want to help make it so people don't lose the hope before they can put their will to work. And that's a tie-in that was definitely planned. That was absolutely planned throughout that spiel.
Fantastic. Right, I'll stop the recording here. I think that's a fantastic way to end it. If you could do the same on your end.
Yes.